That was the best presentation I've ever seen. I showed that to somebody and they said that looks more like constipation than discomfort, but you're a Brinks guard and you're thinking, well, you can fill in the word. You know what I'm talking about. State your name. We've all seen Blazing Saddles. Now, you got to put some effort into it here, Rick. You can't just kind of stand there, okay?
The feedback was tremendous we got from our members, both the millennials and the baby boomers.
He really connects with our people. He understands our industry, and we love having him.
I had a woman in Iowa one time say we used to wear barbed wire on our bare feet during the winter for better traction. This nation is facing a skills gap, the likes of which we have never seen before. I'm talking about the deficit of critical thinking skills that is dogging the productivity of most of the organizations out there. The problem is, though, we have Rick over here with logic. Now, we know he knows what is supposed to happen. He's got it in his mind's eye. That's the logic side. So Rick recognizes that he's going to be dealing with some emotions, so he starts pulling in this direction. Now, you got to put some effort into it here, Rick. You can't just kind of stand there, okay? But what happens? All the emotions get turned up in this thing. Some days, Sarah is just feeling on top because her revenue is ahead or her bookings are ahead. And so what happens? She goes back and forth, and she keeps saying to herself, yeah. And as she does, you see, now think about the number of times this happens to you every day. Just simply because of the number of decisions you make. Some obviously are larger than others, but on a daily and a weekly and, of course, a monthly basis, especially as you're planning events, holy smokes. I look at the number of decisions that were made just to put this 1.5 days together. Tens of thousands of decisions.
Really been invaluable to our company, frankly, because we have a lot of young people there, and hopefully we handle them pretty well due to some of the information I've gotten from Bob over the years. He really does a great job.
What do we do with those young people who are coming in? Paralegals, staff, lawyers. They just don't think right. They have no common sense. You can imagine the conversation. Most of the attorneys were late 40s up to, I think the oldest one was about 72. So here I am out there. They're in a U up in Vail in one of the little meeting rooms, and I'm offering ideas. And about maybe half an hour, 45 minutes into the process, it dawned on me I had included or interacted with every person but one in the room. And that was Jack. And Jack was sitting over here on my left. And so I thought, well, since I've connected with everybody else, I kind of have license to interact with him. So I said, Jack, you haven't said anything. What do you think we should do? What do you think about all this? And Jack kind of stared at the ground, and he thought for a second, and then he looked me square in the eye, and he said, I think we should just fire their asses. And that brought the house down. Everybody loved that, partially because they all knew Jack and said, Jack's the curmudgeon in the group, if you know what I mean. And second of all, because Jack had said something outrageous. And so I saw an opening. And so for the rest of the meeting, as I would go through, I would offer a strategy, we'd talk about it and so on, and I'd say, now, you can all try that strategy if you want, or you can, and I would point at Jack, and Jack would say, fire their asses. Technology is what drives young people. But it's not a question of trying to get them to stop, it's a question of finding ways to integrate it. I worked with a large accounting firm client a few years ago. They hire about 250 fresh out-of-college accountants to work their audit engagements in various clients. One of the things that they discovered with this group is the fact that it tends to text before emailing or writing or calling or anything else. Some of you who have kids have probably discovered that that's true. You know, if we want our kids to come to dinner, we don't bang on the wall anymore. We send them a text and they come right away. Well, that created some interesting headaches. Because you see, you take a 22-year-old accounting major who has just graduated, who is unfamiliar with work to begin with to a large degree. You place that individual in a strange environment. You ask them to perform an audit where they have to ask people within the client firm questions to resolve the issues. Now, that can be a little bit intimidating to some 22-year-old who's not quite sure that they really want to talk to the CFO, who is probably 56. So what did they do? They sent a text. So here you have a 57 or 56-year-old CFO who gets a text. But he doesn't text. So he talks to somebody and they figure out that, oh, this is a text from that auditor. So what does he do? Well, he picks up the phone and calls Harry. Now, Harry is the senior partner at the accounting firm with whom he has been playing golf a couple of times a week for the past 20 years. And he says, Harry, what's this? Well, Harry is mortified. So Harry calls the partner, who calls the junior partner, and works its way down the food chain to some poor audit manager who has to sit this young person down and say, what were you thinking? And over time, the firm had to come up with a protocol. When do you text? When do you email? When do you call? When do you set an appointment to meet face to face? And so on and so forth. And that is now part of the first day's orientation. Because we all make an assumption that a young person who comes into the job will just automatically have common sense and know what to do. But the reality is that's not true. They've not seen that same type of thing.
Now, Katie is 20 years old. She's a pre-med major. You know, how many people in here have kind of a bright kid and you're not quite sure what to do with them sometimes? They sort of share information on a need-to-know basis. That's our Katie. You know, if you say to Katie, what do you want to do when you grow up, so to speak? She's trying to decide between pediatric neurosurgery and genetics research as it relates to autism. Seriously. And my wife and I keep looking at each other and thinking, where the heck did this come from? But I thought, okay, well, maybe we can do something with this. Now, Katie has always sent me her papers. You know, you have kids, they give you your papers, and they say, would you edit my paper, proof my paper before I turn it in? This has been going on since probably 6th grade, and it's worked its way all the way up. Now she's a junior in college. Every year, I understand less and less about what the paper says. You know, I've gotten to a point where I say to her, I have no clue what you're talking about, but the syntax looks great. So this is one of the ones that she recently sent me. Observation of starch hydrolysis by salivary amylase using triiodide and Benedict's detection techniques. Anybody in here know what that is? They didn't either. And I said to them, understand that you're bright, they're bright, you may not know what they're talking about, they don't know what you're talking about, but why don't we all sit down and share some ideas? Wouldn't that be cool? We would like you to turn off your cell phone or set it to vibrate. And so instead of saying what I was supposed to say, I said, please turn your vibrators to... And the room took over.